Hi, everyone. Dom Famularo here, and I'm back with Mapex All Access. I love these Monday afternoon sessions because I get a chance to really meet and talk to some phenomenal drummers, some drummers that are really kind of like planting the seeds for the 21st century, for the future of where this great art form is going. And Mapex, I thank them so much for the opportunity to have this chance to be able to meet these artists and speak to them and have this kind of platform to bring them all on. Well, today, from the West Coast of Sacramento, I want to please welcome Mr. Larry Belton Jr. Let's bring him in here. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on?
Larry, thanks so much for joining me, man. This is so great to have some chance to talk to you. And just before we even started, we had a chance to rap a little. And I'm really impressed with what you're doing, Larry. You got a lot going on. And it's these kinds of events that allows us in this platform to get the word out on what the heck you're doing.
Yes.
So I want to start, first of all, you come from a very musical family, and it kind of started, I guess you were kind of exposed to music at a very young age.
Very young. Yeah. Grew up in church. Um, Started playing about the age of 3. Was a story that I didn't believe when my mom told me, but definitely started at the age of 3. Now seeing these young musicians playing, coming up like Baby Drummer Boy and his little sister. Now it's something I can believe, but started playing there. My mom sung. A line of musicians. My uncle, my grandfather played piano. Uncle plays drums. Auntie sings. Sister raps. So it's just a family full of musicians.
What kind of music was being played around the household at that time when you were young?
Uh, a lot of gospel. Temptations definitely. It's funny. It's a Christmas time, but Temptations Christmas was like one of the famous albums around this time. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, a lot of soul music and a lot of gospel music.
So you're hearing this music, was it on the radio? With the recordings? How are you being exposed to this?
Oh man, that's bad, Dom. We actually had a record player. I don't believe I'm saying this, man.
I hear you.
So yeah, we had a record player and we used to play some records. So yeah, I got to spend some time with actually playing records around the house.
We talk about the absurdity of many, many years ago, and I am way older than you, Larry, and I'll tell you something. I go back to when I remember 78s were being played, to then 45s, to then LPs, so there was an evolution there. But it was a different way. You went and you bought this album, and you put this on, and you put the needle on, and it was a slower process. But it seemed like the music stepped into our mind and our heart much deeper.
Yeah, it definitely did. Great, great listening moments at those points too. Uh, Definitely dove right into listening and not being distracted by everything else because it's so simple and easy now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what was so when how did drums get into the picture? Where'd that start?
I started taking lessons about 5. I think my mother got tired of me banging on everything around the house and finally put me in lessons with the local guy around here. And I took lessons about till about the age of 12, and then started also playing in church. Which is a funny story for church musicians. As a little kid, you don't get to play a full song. You just get to play like one little moment of the section of the service, and then that's it. That's your time for the week.
So was it like so you're at church, so you had a chance to play a little bit of church?
Yeah, yes. So it started growing the more that I started growing into being able to hold my own service. But at a younger age, it was giving me a little little things as much as I could chew at the time. And then as I progressed, then I started being able to hold my own service all the way through.
Boy, how great. So what were you learning in these private formal lessons? What were you learning at that time?
Man, a lot of foundational work. And it's funny because my teacher did group lessons even before group lessons, before I knew what group lessons was. So
Really nice.
we would all had he had a drum set in his living room, in a small house, drum set in his living room, and about a group of probably like five to 10 drummers at a time. So that's when I learned how to do push-ups because we had to have discipline because we're little kids trying to, we're rambunctious. Everybody wants to play.
Mm.
So yeah, started taking lessons then, and which would also expose me to the younger kids in my area that was doing the same thing, which was cool.
Yeah. So you're taking lessons. Were you working out of any books at all? Was he writing things down? How was that happening?
He was more showing us and teaching us how to listen. That was more of the first steps before the books came. Definitely the rudiments, all the foundational patterns, and then learning how to groove, and then learning how to play to these actual different records.
So he's not putting records on. You're playing along to the records. And about how many kids are in the group lessons with you?
Man, I think about 5 to 10. I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, definitely about 5 to 10. So it's a lot of little rambunctious little children.
But how great to be exposed to that. How smart of your parents and your mom too to realize that you needed some kind of training.
Yeah, definitely. It
So
was.
you're doing these lessons, you're doing your thing. Now, when did you start playing with other musicians?
Uh, let's see. I want to say about high school. It's crazy. You always have a passion for something, and so about high school, I started wanting to branch out and do more things, and
Hmm.
I started playing with different guys around the town. Some fun stories and some funny stories of learning. Um, I went from doing the hip hop band to playing in a rock band to getting fired from a rock band. It was great. um, and then while I was with the hip hop band, we actually um, did a few things, and I started really seeing that. Even after that, I wanted to do it even more. So started playing around with more local musicians after that.
So were there any hip hop musicians that you were listening to in particular?
Oh man, yes, but definitely was he hip hop. I mean, definitely didn't know too many of the ones, but Chris Dave was one of the guys that I listened to a lot of
Yeah.
growing up. Like that dude was on let's see, Mint Condition was the it was a cassette that I wore out, and and him and Stokely actually did a drum duo at the beginning of their records, and that was like always one of like the highlights of getting their records. It's like seeing them, hearing them do a drum duo, and I never seen them in concert, but anytime somebody would go to their concert and come back and be like, "Oh, they did this amazing drum duo," I'm like, "You think? I bet they did." But he was definitely one of the larger influences to like that hip hop style and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, Chris is such a great player, such a great
Man,
player. His groove, his ideas, his creativity, and what I like about him, he's not afraid to take risks. Like he
man,
he goes for things that he really kind of pushes himself.
yes. It's like he's pushing himself even when you think he's just relaxing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's really a great artist. So now you're playing with these different musicians, and are there players in the school that you're meeting with? How are you meeting these musicians?
Um, from local churches would meet up, so you start meeting with different players. Being that my family was deeply rooted in the church scene in Sacramento, uh, more people knew of me, and then that's how I like met different musicians at different church venues, and
Yeah,
then as I started going to high school, you start trying to go to different music things, even at a young age. You start you start trying to go to these different music things, um, uh, and definitely different drum clinics. I know Skip's had a few, and so you would go to these things and meet different people, and talk to them, and say, hey, oh, you play this,
yeah.
I want to come hang. So
Well, you mentioned Skip's Music. Skip's Music was just a great store that was in Sacramento area. I had many chances when I was younger, in my early days, to do many clinics there and meet Skip and his whole team of people that were there. And I mentioned Joe Lamond, a young kid in the drum department, was just a phenomenal, knowledgeable person. He eventually became and still is president of NAM, which is the National Association of Music Merchants. So Skip has had an influence in the entire industry with who he has trained and have passed through the portals of it. But he had tons of clinics there. He had so many different artists there that he had going on. It was a great store and a great area to grow up in.
yeah, and that's a funny thing because one of the weekends, the church, that was like my big moment of keeping the church, being able to run the church service by myself. My uncle actually skipped service. I'm telling on him, but it's a great story. I don't think he knows I remember this, but Dennis Chambers came to town, and it wasn't so much Dennis Chambers. It was Dennis Chambers and Thomas Pridgeon was
Oh.
opening up for him as a kid. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go see Dennis Chambers." So that was actually like one of my defining moments in the service to where I could handle the whole service. I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Uh,
Enjoy the clinic. Tell me all about it." So,
well, listen, great players. Thomas Pridgeon, who I've known for a while. We did a clinic tour together in Australia just a few years ago. And Dennis Chambers, I go back knowing Dennis for 30 years. Listen, these guys are seasoned pros
yes,
at what they do. So I mean, it's just amazing that. But again, that's kind of what a lot of the scene up there happened. There were all the different artists coming through, and pretty powerful.
yes, yes, definitely different from now. So it was actually really great and a lot more personal.
So what was it like playing your first service where you had to run the whole thing and play drums for the whole time?
So it was a great success story and a torture story at the same time. So the pastor, the actual pastor was the bass player. And so let's just say I'm seeing Thomas play a lot. So I'm like, oh, okay, he's doing a lot of nice things. So I'm like, I'm about to try this too as soon as I get the chance, the opportunity. Uh, and yeah, the pastor shut all that down and was like, yo, you play with me and that's it. You stick to grooving. And I'm just like, ah. So it was a great moment, but a lot of discipline at that moment.
But listen, the discipline, which you obviously have, is a great quality for us to understand and develop. And it sounds like that's you got not only a great sense of discipline from your family, but also from doing these church events and having good formal education at a young age. This is a part of what was molding you at the time, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
I mean, those are great. So from there now, when do you decide? How old are you when you decide to go down to LA and take lessons at MI?
Man, I think I was early 20s. Early 20s, I decided, okay, I actually had a buddy, and it's funny, he was working at Skips at the time, but we would go back and forth about stuff, and he was like, man, you should definitely go down or go to a music school. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, it's two of them. He was like, it's Berkeley, and then there's MI in LA. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, Berkeley is like the real one, and MI is still cool, but if you look at Berkeley, so that was a quick turnaround of a story. I looked at Berkeley and I seen snow, and that was it. And I was like, yep, not going there. And that was the extent of looking up Berkeley. And I was like, MI it is. So
But very smart of you, because I live on the North Shore of Long Island.
man,
And we sometimes get a lot of snow where we are, and it comes down. But Boston always gets like 2 or 3 times the amount of snow we had. So if we get a foot of snow, they get 3 or 4 feet of snow. So your decision was actually very wise at that time to stay away from the snow area. That's hysterical.
yeah, just talk about going from one extreme to the next. It's like you don't experience that type of stuff in the West Coast, in Sacramento especially, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man. And I just seen a picture and was like, yeah, that doesn't look too fun to me. So
Boy, good for you. So you go down to LA and Musicians Institute, which is a phenomenal facility in what they have. They've got such a great place to learn. At the time, so about what year was that? Who was there teaching at that time?
Let's see. It was '09, and my private instructor, I think he's still there. Fred Dinkins. I'm sure you know Fred.
Fred Dinkins he's still there, and he is.
Yeah.
But he won again just this a couple of days ago, Teacher of the Year, which he's won for several years in a row. Great guy, great player. I've had many sessions where I've worked with Fred and talked about technique stuff. Great player and a great guy.
Yeah, definitely a great guy. And when I go down there, I check on him from time to time. I try to pop up at the school and see him and sit down with him for a minute.
Nice.
We definitely still keep in touch too. It's a weird way, and definitely keep in touch. But I'm trying to think of the other teachers.
Was Joe Porcaro there at that time?
No, he wasn't.
He had left at that time.
He was at I think he had went to Los Angeles Music Academy.
Right. He moved on. Okay, yeah.
I didn't get to see him. Definitely was hoping to, but
by studying with Freddie Dinkins,
yes.
You got a lot of what Joe got, because Freddie was a top student of Joe Porcaro and taught many of his stuff. So you were able to get it, second hand.
Yeah, no, Fred is he's still going on, as you said, still going on as one of those top teachers. It was funny because he told the story at the beginning, like at the end of the quarter, like, oh, okay, you got me this quarter, and I can't remember who placed me with them, but I had them for the first quarter because they knew, okay, this is what you needed, and taught me all about reading. Definitely was a stickler on that. I hated it and loved it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but definitely taught me a lot about that. And at the end of the quarter, he was just like, listen, man. So this is the issue at the end and the beginning of every quarter. When you first come, you get me, but then it's a fight to get me again every quarter. So you got to make sure you do this early on. And it's some fun stories about people not getting him and being upset, like, yo, I didn't get Fred again, man. How did you do it? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I got him again. So yeah, but yeah, I'm thinking after that, Rob Carson, oh, Chuck Silverman, the late Chuck Silverman, man.
What a
Yeah, that
great guy. Well, another great guy that we lost way too soon. Chuck was just and wrote many great books that are still out and available. Yeah, real good guy.
yeah, man. We it's funny because I have a fun story about him. Learning percussion, and actually starting to study the Afro-Cuban stuff. Uh, we actually got up and to think, okay, I play it on the drums. You learn it on the drums, but then to play the actual percussion and to like actually break down what you're doing on the drum set.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely challenging. It was funny at the same time. He's looking at me like, "What's wrong with you, bro? What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This is not as simple as I thought it would be. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned did you study with Rob Carson, right? Rob Carson was
Yeah, Rob Carson. Yes, he was the technique teacher. Definitely studied with him.
yeah,
Definitely.
there it is. Mark, thanks so much. And I mean, again, another great person to have that level of expertise. But you had some really strong people there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Frank. I'm trying to think of the odd meters teacher. I can't think of him. He was definitely a good one too. But definitely a lot of great teachers there.
Well, you also went down there and you won the Stanley Clark Scholarship.
Oh yes, yes. That was one of the most craziest times of my life. Yes.
Well, the other part of it is you had to play in front of Stanley Clark and also George Duke.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't get me deeper than that.
Yeah, that was a setup too, I think. So and it's no footage. We actually try to find the tape of it. I don't know if they actually had it, but
Wow.
I had a great bass player that I would hang around. He was one of the bass teachers, and we would talk about it, and he actually really like helped me with a lot of jazz stuff. And so we was actually studying some of the jazz. He would bring us up right into the practice room,
Nice.
little practice room, and he'd drink like 30 cups of coffee by that time, and so his meter was definitely up there, and he's like, "You can't keep up, youngster." And I'm like, "No, I need all the coffee you had." Sets me up into saying, "Oh, dude, I know one of the perfect tunes for you to play," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. What is it?" And he was like, "Stratus," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah." So we rehearsed Stratus and we nail it, and the day comes and no one knows who's gonna be on this panel, and my Fred actually told me beforehand, George Duke is gonna be there, and I'm just like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be interesting." And yeah, so we get there, and now the band that's helping me sees, oh, okay, uh dude, George Duke's walking in, all these Vince Wilburn, he walks in, and all these people, great panel of judges, walks in. Man, my keyboard player walks up to me and was like, "Man, you didn't tell me George Duke was gonna be here." And I'm like, "What's wrong, bro?" And he's like, "Dude, I can't pull it together." And his hands are shaking like this. And I'm like, "Dude, look, if we crash and burn, we're gonna crash and burn together. So don't." So that was a great story of playing that.
Oh, and George Duke, who again with Billy Cobham, I mean, it just didn't get any deeper than the music that they played together and how great George was. And I met George a couple of times through Billy Cobham. What a great guy! He was just a great guy. Aside
Yeah.
from being this fantastic musician that just has given us so much great music.
Yes.
Now, Stanley Clark was there too, from what I understand, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
So he comes in. So you get the scholarship. So I mean, already now you're showing the results of your discipline. You're showing that you're serious about this here, and this is something that you want to pursue. So now you finish MI
Yes.
and you make the move back to Sacramento.
Yes, for a little bit. Yes. Uh Definitely moved back to Sacramento. You know, do the family stuff. My mother actually got sick and then passed, and then I decided to move back to LA.
Wow.
Um, and that was one of those life changing moments, but definitely was like, okay, maybe. And it was a struggle,
Yeah.
but I actually had someone that talked to me and was like, yo, you know, because I thought about quitting at that time, which is crazy. And was like, you know, and so someone talked to me and was like, you know, well, what would your mother think and what would she say? And I'm like, you know, that's not a fair question.
Yeah.
And
That's tough.
so I was like, she'll definitely tell me to go do it. And she was like, well, that's what you do from this day on. You honor your mother. And so, and the things that she would love you to do. And so I went back and started getting deeply into it.
Well, how beautiful, and I'm sure she is extremely proud of all that you have done and what you continue to do. So you continue to honor her, which is beautiful.
Yes.
You go on now. So now you did your first three studio albums with
Mhm.
Jeff Carney and
Yes. Jeff Carney and Spectrum in
Spectrum,
Sacramento.
right? What was that
Yes.
like? What was that like doing recording that? And you recorded that up in LA? Was that in Sacramento?
It was in Sacramento. I actually did another one. Well, I recorded one song with through a church. It was a youth project before that. So that one kind of set me up for being able to record on my own.
Hmm.
Um, like again, it was like the stepping stone. So
Yeah.
did that one early on in my teenage years. So when I got with Jeff, it was kind of really understanding um, how to go into it and not go crazy,
Hmm.
be able to play to the music and give the music what it needs,
Right.
and still try to throw a little bit of stuff in there too.
Well,
Definitely still try to throw some stuff in there, a little bit of flavor in there. So um, yeah, that was definitely a great moment because it wasn't the normal gospel that I played. It was contemporary gospel. So it was definitely a teachable moment for me.
so when you say that the normal gospel that you were playing in the church, how
Mhm.
different was that from the contemporary gospel?
It was so normal gospel, you know, you have and it's great. My aunt, she was the director, so you definitely have to watch the director.
Yeah.
With contemporary gospel, it's more structure based. So you'll understand it. It's just like jazz. You get the structure is the structure, and boom. Gospel, you watch the director, things may go here, there,
Oh,
here, this way. And so it was definitely different.
so you got to really pay attention and know when to make a quick sharp turn if needed be.
Yeah, yeah, with that director, whatever they feeling for the day, definitely.
So in the church stuff, you had rehearsals that you had rehearsals that you had to go to, so you had to learn all the different gospel tunes, and then if a change was made, you had to know where you were going immediately.
Right there on the spot. Yeah,
Well, what great training! That's really great
yeah,
training.
definitely a lot of it. So it when you're coming into something like the contemporary world or even the more professional world, um, when someone makes the change, you kind of know how to adjust real quick and say, okay, do whatever you need to do, process it. All right, cool, I'm good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how fantastic! So those three albums that you did with Jeff Carney and Spectrum, what was that like? What was that like recording that? This was a pretty deep experience for you?
Yeah, it was a studio recording. And the way he did things was, a little different than most people that come in to record. Most people would just be like, "Oh, I'm calling in all these professionals." He used everybody in the band that he already had,
Hmm.
and so it was a great thing for me. But learning how to one at a young age keep everybody all in sync with what's going on, because we
Hmm.
all came from different backgrounds. It was a Latin bass player. Um, uh, a classically trained piano player. So it was, different people from different backgrounds. A horn section that liked to push the the music. So it's like coming in, like, okay, learning all their different traits and then keeping it all together.
Boy, that's so great to be able to have that level of experience, and you're still young at the point. So here you are now getting this. This is good recording studio experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, interesting. We have a variety of different people that are joining us here, which is so great. I'm going to pull some of these up here. Carlos Gutzman, who is a phenomenal, let me show you this here. He's a phenomenal drummer and drum tech in the Miami area. He's come on and joined us here. Thank you, Carlos. We've got, look at this here. I'm going to come down to Bruno Muse. Bruno Muse, who is a phenomenal drummer from Antwerp, Belgium. He's on here right now joining us.
Man.
We've got Claude Hoffman, who's a phenomenal drummer also from Belgium, but also teaches at a school in Luxembourg.
Okay.
He's joined us here. We've got, and Bruno had just said that he studied with Rob Carson in 2002. So
nice. Yeah.
A lot of these guys have passed through the Rob Carson portals. We've got, this is a girl, Marina, who's a phenomenal drummer from Cyprus, who I have a chance of giving some lessons to. Nice. I like her Alaska kind of name there. Keith has joined us here. Keith Dudek, another phenomenal player and teacher himself.
Oh.
And here's a question from Carlos Gutman. I'm going to pull this one up here. He says, hi, Larry. It's so refreshing that I'm hearing that you've pursued education through the years. What would be the number one issue that you would want to pass on to up-and-coming drummers to increase their value in this industry? And second, what drew you to Mapex? So let's start with the first thing you'd share with young drummers.
What was that? What was the number one thing that you'll pass on to them, right?
Yeah. Up-and-coming drummers, yeah.
Definitely stay consistent, find your sound, and learn from everyone before you. That's one of the things that I don't take for granted, but definitely learn from everyone that's been before you. I actually set out to try to meet as many of the gurus, is what I call them, such as like a Dom. I got to talk to, I'm going blank now, Aquarian.
Roy Burns.
Yeah. Talked to him for hours. Just
great guy.
Then crazily being connected to Fred, it opened me up to be able to talk to some greats. Even to this day, it's funny listening to Dennis Chambers go off about reading. He didn't even know I was on the other line. It's like he had no idea, but I was getting lectured about reading when he called in. Meeting, I can't even think of his name now. I used to play for the Tonight Show.
Marvin Smitty Smith.
Man, Marvin Smitty Smith.
Yeah.
And getting the chance and the opportunity to actually sit with them and talk to them and get musical advice, and sometimes it's life advice that actually help towards music.
Big time. Yeah.
And I would tell definitely young drummers to do it as much as possible. I actually got to help Marvin move out of his house. Fred presented me and a buddy of mine with the opportunity, and we was like, yeah, that's cool, we gonna help. But I'm about to ask him every question under the sun while and that's what we did. So I tell young drummers to do that, definitely.
Well, what great. Well, listen, first of all, the opportunities that you have with Fred Dinkins. Fred Dinkins opens up doors for everyone. He knows everyone. He's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal teacher and still doing some recordings. And I see Fred a couple times a month, and just on Zoom we talk, and it's just phenomenal to have that level of relationship with Fred. So I mean, it's great that you've had the chance and the opportunity to meet these great players.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely a great opportunity.
How fantastic. The part two of the question here from Carlos is what drew you to Mapex? So tell me about Mapex and how you got involved with Mapex.
So Mapex is a funny story.
Thanks, Carlos.
That's very funny. So while in LA, making friends and networking with different guys. And the funniest thing is a buddy of mine, Bruce, who is an artist on Mapex, he's literally telling me about Mapex, and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. And on one of the through one of the rehearsals, we rehearsed at a studio, and they had a Mapex drum, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's cool. And I was like, yeah, they sound cool. And then then having other people I knew play Mapex, they would always talk about it like, oh man, Mapex, Mapex. And I'm like, oh yeah, and I honestly was like, I'm set with the things that I have as far as endorsing the companies that I do. I was like, drums. Ah. And so when I moved back to Sacramento, a buddy of mine had a older armory kit, and I got to borrow it for a few shows when I subbed for him because it had the bass drum logo. So I'm like, yo, I'm just use your kit.
Good.
And so now I'm using it a lot more, and I'm just like, okay, these things are actually pretty nice. and and like I was telling Dom, so looked into Mapex, and then which is funny because instead of going the route of just going directly to Mapex, I knew Skips had this program, and so I went to Skips. It was called the band program, and I went to Skips and talked to him, and so that's how I got through with Mapex. I was on the band artist deal, and fast forward, that was for about 2 years. Um, Story gets better. Fast forward to this year, started getting really more into content creating and playing with the Mapex now
Yeah.
after I have them. Um, it's funny, Ben St. John, one of the guys that works with Mapex and stuff. He was like, oh, do you want to? He was like, I like one of the videos you did. Like, we're thinking about posting it on the Mapex page, and I'm like, yo, that'd be amazing. Like, cool. So literally, they posted it, and that is how I got involved with them,
Yeah.
and then moving on from that, posting it. Bruce circles back around, which is funny. My buddy Bruce, he calls me, and he doesn't know, but before he calls me, Mark actually, there's a guy on Facebook, I mean Instagram, that actually in directs message me before Bruce calls, and I can't remember, it's West Coast something on his Instagram. And so I look at it and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I'll get back to it in a few days. And Bruce calls and he's talking to me and he's like, yo, man, I want to introduce you to this dude, Mark. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. And he was like, yeah, can I give him your number? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's cool. We'll see what happens. And Mark gets my number from Bruce, and Mark calls and he was like, man, it's funny. I was just actually looking you up. And so I go back into my inbox and was like, oh, this was this was Mark that actually hit me.
That's
So,
Mark Bennett we're talking about.
yes, Mark
Who was
Bennett.
one of the key guys at Mapex, who's a phenomenal, just a phenomenal guy, just a great, great person, and very involved with the Mapex brand.
Yes,
Fantastic.
yes, and definitely a musician, and learning some stuff from him as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the road to Mapex.
Well, how fantastic! Now, I saw on your YouTube channel, which is Dur Mad,
Yes,
and you did a phenomenal video on the Black Panther. So, what kid is that behind you there?
this is the Black Panther Design Lab, the Versatis one. Nice gold sparkle.
That is a beautiful kid, and
Yes.
with the combined mind power of Mapex and Russ Miller
Yeah.
produced an incredible kit. So tell me about that kit there. You got that kit, set up in your studio there?
Yeah, so this kit is, man, it's amazing. And I'm doing some reviews on it now. Um and definitely technology, as we talked about earlier, but fighting through technology to get all the reviews done. But uh the kit and what it provides is genuinely amazing. They took the time to actually answer a lot of questions or a lot of concerns from musicians, drummers, and not even just drummers. I think sound engineers as well.
Yeah, yeah.
um but the whole mat system, the and I definitely talk about it within the reviews, but I'm one of the guys that are like, oh, okay, you tell me about something, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, but I need to see it to believe it. And working with the kit, it's amazing because the mat system, the tom arms from with the natural gate, it works exactly how they explain it. and I definitely like just playing with it over the time. I've been amazed about it. So the hats off to them, Mapex and Russ, with this kit. Um, definitely something to learn and get into. But once you do, it is definitely something useful, from being able to actually naturally gate your toms right on the spot, instead of having to retune it or put moon gels on. Which is crazy, because I had a funny story about that, where I had to put like uh a ton of gaff tape on a ringing 16-inch floor tom, but now they have this nice little leg that you actually can take that ring out and take that overtone out. So it's an amazing kit, and it offers a lot of abilities that come with the kit. Wait, did I lose you? How did I lose him? Oh, sweet. So you didn't lose me. Whew. Okay, wait a minute. Now read the comments. Thanks, Mark. It's funny, we was just talking about these actual kind of fun disasters. Uh and right now I have to call Sweetwater um to actually, work on some of that. But yeah, the joys of technology. Talk about ox drums. Oh man. So it's funny. So with this setup, I'm going to be actually featuring this ox drum as a kick drum, which is dope. It's definitely one feature that is amazing. Uh, you almost back down.
I'm
Oh,
not
that's
sure what's happening here. Larry, let me re-sign this here. Oh my God.
But okay, so yeah, the auxiliary drum. Um, I'm gonna be using it coming this weekend, and I'll definitely talk about that. I'm gonna be doing a nice clinic. Um, but this time around, I'm gonna be using it as a kick drum. But the ox drum, you can use it for many different things. Floor tom, gong drum, which in some of my previous videos I've done, I actually did one on YouTube. I did a cover of this day, the actual video. So you can use it for those three features: floor tom, second kick drum, which I'm actually going to be using this weekend, and then even a gong drum, which is amazing. It's definitely amazing. Ah, Dom, you back.
I think I'm back now, right, Larry?
Hey, what are we talking? We definitely talked about the love of technology, right?
Thank you so much. I could hear you, but for some reason my camera and my Google browser here was having a fit. So, but I heard what you were saying. So, the design lab is really a very different design in what they've done with hardware and sound and shells. A very different, unique brainstorming process.
Yeah. And even getting into I actually went back and forth with Mark about it, and he was like, "Man, I'm definitely gonna, if I need to, he was gonna link me with Russ." And even going through to how they put some reinforcements in some, because definitely the 12, starting at the 12, it has the reinforcement on the top.
Mm.
I know that I don't have a 13, but the 13 has it on the bottom,
Right.
and then the 14 and the 16 has, top and bottom, and then this beautiful kick drum, which is amazing. There is no pillow on my kick drums, and I'm definitely going to be talking about that. But it has the three rings in there to actually give it. And I believe when Mark talked to me about it, he said that middle one is there so it can give it that smooth transition of the
Yeah.
sound. So
Yeah.
you don't need the actual pillow in there. So my kick is actually open right now, and it's been open the whole time, nothing in there, and it still sounds just as amazing as if I was to put a pillow or something in there.
So, and do you have a hole in the other head in the?
Yes, definitely a hole in the other head.
Mhm.
Um, the standard small one, but
Yeah.
yeah, just the open kick drum, and it has the three rings in there. And again, it's one of those things that you know you got to see it, and definitely listening to my videos, you could hear that the kick is there. But normally, with my other kit, it's a pillow in there, but this one it's wide open and it sounds amazing.
Boy, how interesting. Boy, you might want to. I mean, Russ is a very, very dear friend of mine, Russ Miller. You might want to at some point connect with him and just do a call with him. He is so knowledgeable about all that he has with the design of this kit and the specifics of it. It would be interesting to get the two of your minds together for sure.
Man, definitely, definitely. That is a yeah, this kid is amazing, man. But yeah, definitely from all of it, even getting the 8-inch tom was definitely great. It comes in the packet, the normal pack comes in 10, 12, 14, 16 with the auxiliary drum, the 18-inch auxiliary drum and a 22-inch kick. Mapex, Mark was so nice to send me this beautiful 8-inch. So got the full setup, and now I'm being able to explore it even more as not just the regular setup with the gong drum, but now
Yeah.
using the auxiliary drum as a kick.
Boy, that really is fantastic. It really is incredible. I mean, I can kick at some of these comments here. Dom needs to clear the snow around from his drum shed so, so we don't lose me again. Carlos, that's a very, very good point for sure.
Oh man, that's too funny.
So now
Oh,
your decision not to go to Boston because
I,
of the snow,
I
how
definitely,
smart was that, right?
definitely gonna say that goes back to that decision. You see the snow, stay away.
Well, Mapex for sure loves having you with them because you play so well, and there's a great video on your YouTube channel
Yes.
which really showcases the drums, the Black Panther design lab. And I watched it a few times, man. Great, great playing and great demonstration. And the way you spoke about it was extremely clear.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a great kit to to definitely have. It's one of those things for studio, live sound. And like I said, running into some of the problems that I did at some of my shows. I know I was at a live show for a broadcasting, and like I said, he was just like, "Yeah, that 16-inch just keeps ringing," and I'm like, "Dude, you could see the top head of this tom. I don't know what's going on here." But just being able to have that SAS, the yeah, I think it's the SAS leg now. It actually just takes that overtone, and you can actually control how much of it you want. So it's definitely amazing. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm working on uh getting all that up as far as the reviews go.
Boy, that's great. Someone had just asked here, give the channel a name here. I'm going to go to Dana Goodman. Give the channel name. It's dir_MADD, right?
Yeah, so that stands for Director Mad, and that is definitely the artist's name. Uh, which is it good to talk about that?
Yeah.
Definitely a new venture. And how that came about was just going through like a transition a couple of years ago. I was actually honored to be a musical director, and one of the guys would be like, "Man, you always seem mad," and I'm like, "No, I'm not mad. I'm just trying to make sure that she gets what she, the singer gets what she needs. So I understand that this is how we work." And it he was like, "Man, you're always mad, like, relax." I'm like, "No, we good," and I'm like, and then I'll switch and talk, and then it'd be normal, and he's like, "Yeah." So and then it comes from over that period, actually sitting down and working with um the new venture of the artistry, as far as DJ drumming. So going into that, I had to do like a lot of studying, a lot of understanding what I wanted to do with it. So out came Director Mad, uh, because it's like you're in that mad scientist phase where you're putting a little bit of this, and it kind of covers everything. So if I mess up when if I mess up in an actual moment, it's just like being a scientist. I put too much of this in the potion, so I got to redo it again. So it's actually pretty cool.
Well, that's it. Now, talk about some of the DJ stuff as far as what that takes and that kind of research.
Ah man, the DJ stuff. So DJ drumming. I've definitely seen people like doing a lot of like I call it producing while performing. For me, it came about when I moved back to Sacramento. Uh, while I was in LA for that time, I learned that DJs and drummers actually work hand in hand together, and I would do a
Yeah.
lot of gigs with just a DJ and a drummer. Um, Crazy that Travis Barker and rest in peace DJ A&M
Yeah.
um, really like started that thing,
Yeah.
and when I moved to LA, it was one of those things that's like for sure thing. And so I really got into it. So I really wanted to bring it back to Sacramento. I'm like, dude, it really works. Like, and I really searched for DJs and none of them responded back. And one guy was like, I thought you just wanted to take my whole DJ catalog. And I'm like, no, man, I want to work with you. And so I just decided, hey, okay, I can't get no DJ to work with me. I'm just going to do it myself. Um, and running everything out of Ableton because actually in MI, now I can't think of his name, but there was a teacher that actually introduced us to Ableton like in 2009.
Oh, interesting.
And it's an actual DJ program, even though we use it for so much more. It's an actual DJ program, and the functionality of it comes from it being a DJ program to be able to run the lights, to be able to run video. It's all made and built for a DJ to be able to do all the things on his own. So I literally just dove into that and then start putting the pieces together. It's like, okay, well, how am I going to play this? How am I going to, how am I going to mix? So now, now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, cool. I know what I'm doing. I'm just mixing and grooving is what I call it.
Yeah. Boy, it's such a whole new way of thinking now. As we are well into the 21st century, and the
Yes.
creativity that we need to move our art form forward, it's got to be a combination of several different influences, which is what you're doing.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely a few different things at once. So
Well, this goes back to again the disciplines that you have learned as a younger kid, and that you have within your personality that's allowing you to be open minded enough to take this new stuff in.
yeah, definitely is. It's fun being an artist, and it's a learning thing as well. I've always heard about people, because us drummers love expressing ourselves
Yeah,
when we sit behind artists, and artists will always get us to understand, like, hey, you're here to accompany me. So now doing it myself, it's like, okay, now I'm understanding what it means to be an artist and how it is to have someone that you want to come and accompany you rather than they take the show. So it's definitely a learning curve as well.
well, a great point. When you're a side man and you're handling what the responsibilities are for a side man, that's one thing. Even when you were with Jason Derulo and you played the Teen Choice Awards, all of a sudden now you got to go there and do the gig for what it is, and then you ended up playing on the Tonight Show, and you ended up doing, but you're a hired gun, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and yes, and that's funny because that was the first lesson into the electronic side of things. Playing with Jason and uh okay, well, have the discipline of playing the sounds from the record or playing a clap, an electric sound,
Yeah,
on the SPDS, and playing using triggers, and then going, switching it up and, playing between the electronic side of things and then the live side of the kit.
right, right.
Yeah. Then definitely a big, huge one going, doing the Tonight Show, where it was all electronic drums. And it's funny because I've actually got the question a lot of times where people are like, "Dude, was you really playing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was really playing all the sounds that you heard." But they was like, "It's an electric kick. They could hide the chords," and I was like, "Nah, they didn't. I was playing." So
Boy, that's again, that's learning a whole new skill
yes,
in our craft of coordination, of independence, and timing. There's a lot that goes involved with that.
man, the timing was a definite one. Just the use of electronics, and you're all electronic and everybody else is still doing a live thing. It's definitely one of those things where I definitely had to play ahead of the beat sometimes as
Yeah,
far as the electronics go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, like we talked about, the technology and then the use of all them wires, the sound traveling through all them wires from that kit, and then triggering, and we used Reason at the time, which was a good thing, and so
Right.
yeah, definitely one of those learning things as well.
Boy, how powerful. Let me ask you, what motivates you?
Oh man, what motivates me?
Yeah.
Oh, the craziest thing, music and its possibilities, one, some
Hmm.
of the young guns, and then some of the older people that's done it before us. are things that definitely motivate me. Um, and over the last few years, people actually pouring like nice words into me and telling me good things. Because through the time as a musician, it can get a little rough, but
Yeah.
like every moment that I'm like, I don't feel like doing this, someone actually like directs message me and be like, oh, you're such an inspiration. And I'm like, oh, you got to be heaven sent, because I definitely didn't want to do music today. So that a lot of times motivates me. Then again, some of the younger guys, some of the younger players, their knowledge and their skill level is definitely motivating. And then to see like I call them the gurus, to see exactly what you guys have done and where things have came from and how it's evolved. And just like even talking to you about doing the lessons, how you've went through all the phases, like those type of things definitely motivate me.
Oh, interesting. It's got. We were talking about how teaching lessons, and I mean, you are an excellent educator, and it would be great to have you at a point where people can reach you and track you down. And I want people to know that they can contact you on your Instagram page, which
Yes.
again is dir_madd,
Yes.
dir_mad. So that's something which they can contact you on Instagram, because I'd love people to take lessons with you, because the possibilities of what you're explaining would be exciting for this next generation to kind of hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely into the lessons. And that's a funny thing too, because now that's another inspiration as well. Sometimes when I'm teaching lessons, and I did something a few years ago like called 2-minute lessons on YouTube.
Yeah.
uh, and it got back to my teacher, and it was crazy. Someone actually walks into Fred Dinkins' room and they're showing him a video of me, and he's looking like, and so he calls me on the spot and was like, Larry, I got the student here that's actually, showing me this video of this lesson that you did. And I'm just like, are you serious? I'm like, well, what do you think, Fred? And he's like, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm just telling the guys like, yo, Fred is one of those guys to definitely listen to. But yeah, did the lessons, and definitely working on doing that now. And actually, Mark, I just seen it, clinic. Um, uh, there's also a clinic coming up too, where I'll be talking about a lot of this.
Nice.
Next Saturday, or this coming Saturday. What is it? January 2nd.
January 2nd. And how do they track this down? It's on what?
It will be via Lesson Squad on their Zoom, and I will definitely be posting a link. So definitely check the Director Matt Instagram,
Right.
and I will definitely post that as well. I will also post it on the website, which is Mad Cave, MADD Cave CAVE.live.
Okay, good.
So we'll be posting that information on both places.
That's through the Lesson Squad.
Yes, through Lesson Squad.
Lessonsquad.com, which is their boy. Well, this is great stuff, Larry. This really is.
Oh, thank you.
And what time is that on Saturday the 2nd, January 2nd?
It will be at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay, good. Okay, so that
try to choose a time that it'd be cool for everybody to chime in and tune in.
Yeah, that'll be 7 p.m. here in the East Coast. So while you're enjoying non-snow, we'll be in freaking snow again. Thank you very much.
I gotta love the snow, dog.
Thank you very much. Well, this is great, Larry. What a pleasure to have some time to talk to you. You've got some great stuff you're doing. Good luck with your solo project. Dear Mad, Director Mad, I think this is fantastic on what you're doing. You are really a great inspiration for people to kind of be inspired by drumming, and it's a great point. Sometimes we are inspired by a message that comes to us, and it kind of sparks us to move forward. You got some great comments from people that are following you here on just the chats that we've had on here. You can go back, and this is this again. It's all on Facebook, but what they'll do is in time they'll post this onto the Mapex YouTube channel.
Oh, sweet.
It'll be available on YouTube also soon enough. And great to have you here, man. You've got some great stuff that you're offering. You've got an incredible future ahead of you, and I look forward to at some point where we can get together in person.
That would definitely be dope.
It would be great if you could come here.
Non-snow.
And bring a shovel with you, because there's gonna be snow here if you get here in the winter.
Be a whole nother learning point, Dom. A whole nother...
Absolutely, man. Larry, thank you so much on behalf of Mapex and All Access here. As we do these different interviews, it's just so great to have people like yourself here. You're my last interview of 2020, so it could not have been, set off on a much better positive point than having some time with you. Thank you so much. Stay well, and a happy and healthy new year to you for sure, and hopefully we'll touch base real soon.
Yes, sir. All right, Dom. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. Fantastic.